Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I bought a camera a few weeks back, and I've realised I've got a big problem. I can't stop buying old cameras, but I do love collecting them, and I just love old cameras, old film cameras that is. And I saw this one, and I bought it purely because I'd never seen one before, and it's such an unusual looking camera. It's quite beautiful actually, in many respects. It's just different. It's an Agfa Flexilette, I think that's how you pronounce it. And what's unusual about this camera, as you can see, it's got two lenses. It's a twin lens, a 35mm camera. And the way you focus this camera is with a waist level finder. Now, if you're using a square waist level finder, that's no problem because you've got no landscape or portrait format, everything's square. But as you can see with this, it's a 35mm, and that's great if you're just shooting waist level looking down. But if you want to do things in portrait format that way, then it could be a little bit more difficult focusing. But we'll just see how we go on. But really, I'm going out today just to test the camera, just to make sure everything's working okay. The shutter speeds sound fine, at least the slow speeds sound absolutely spot on. I don't know about the faster speeds, we'll just have to check those. The aperture is moving freely and stopping down, so that's not a problem. And the light seals on this camera seem absolutely fine, but I won't know until I go out and take some pictures. So I'm going to go downstairs in my dark room. Please excuse the barking dog. Shut up! Oi! Quiet! I'm doing a video. So I'll go down. I've got some FP4 in my bootloader, and I'll put in about 10, 12 frames, just enough to test this camera out. I don't know what I'm going to photograph. I'll just photograph what takes my eye, and at the end I'll show you the pictures that I've taken, see if this camera forms okay, and do a little mini review and tell you what I think about this camera. So I'll go downstairs now and load these frames and go out with the camera and see how I go on. Right, for my first picture, I'm going to take a picture of this crossing over the river wharf and get down to a low angle if I can. I just realised I've come out with my best shoes, forgot to change. I better keep them clean or else I'm in big trouble. Anyway, I'll get set up with camera and show you what I'm doing. Right, I'm going to take a light reading first. Instant light reading. Try and go for a slowish shutter speed with this. See if I can handhold it. And I'm going to go at 15th of a second at f22. So I'll get the camera. Set the aperture. Which knob is it? Have a look, there we go. And I put it to 15th of a second. There we go. Now you wind this camera on the bottom. It's a lovely action. You have to do this without falling in. Right, I'm going to take another picture with the camera, but this time I'll use it in the portrait format and I'll use the aperture wider. I'll take a light reading. 250 at 5.6. 250. At 5.6. See if I can do it this way. A bit awkward is this. Really possible. I think where I'm going to have to work this is focus this way and then turn the camera that way. I can actually look through this here to compose, so I'll try it that way through this eyepiece that goes through there. So I'm going to have to focus whoops. It's so awkward. And then use this eyepiece to get composition. Right, I've tried that. That was awkward, but just trying to get used to the camera. So I'll move on and see what else I can find. Wind it on. Can't double expose this camera. This is an older suspension bridge. Goes over the river wharf. Feels like spring is in the air today. It's lovely. Might take a picture of these church buildings in the churchyard at Ilkley. This is the sort of view that I'm looking at through this camera. Don't know if you can see that. Bit awkward to see really, but that's the view. So take a light reading and take a picture of this. So 125 at f8. Have a walk around, see if I can see anything else. Wind the camera on. It's a very, very awkward camera to use this. Quite like this. We've got these different angles pointing up and taking it that way. I think I'll put an orange filter on the camera just to increase the contrast in the stone and darken the blue sky. So I'll get the camera set up. First of all, I'll take a light reading. I have to compensate for the orange filter, which is about 1.5 stops. 30th of a second at 5.6. That's with the compensation put in for the orange filter. And I was a bit lucky here because I couldn't find any way of attaching a filter to this camera, but this filter, if I use it the wrong way around, it just pops onto there. Just holds on enough so I can use it. So it was, what was the exposure? 30th of a second at 5.6. So with 5.6, 30th of a second. Right, that's got that. Put the filter away. And sun's coming out a little bit now, so see if we can find a dark to light shot. I like those in black and white, see if we can find one. Move my ISO back. I altered the ISO by 1.5 stops to compensate for the orange filter. I don't know why we bother sometimes, you know, it'd be a lot easier with a digital camera. I just love using old cameras. Right, let's have a little walk about, see what we can see. Right, my idea for this shot is I've got this tree here and these gravestones leading along the side of the path. I'm going to focus on the tree and use a wideish aperture to throw out so it goes gradually out of focus. And again, I think I might use an orange filter. So I'll just get the camera set up. I'm finding it a very awkward camera to use this. Right, that's got that one. I don't know how many frames I've got left. I forgot to reset the counter, but I must be getting it in now. Oh, I've got one more left. Just carry on. Right, I'm going to take a photograph of these, I think the silver birches, with the sun behind it, slightly shrouded by cloud. So I'll take a light reading and see how this camera performs shooting into the light. So that's giving me an exposure of, I'll use 60th of a second between f8 and 5.6. Right, got that shot. I just want this camera to run out of film. I hate using it. It's just, I've got another shot. I'll try that. Hopefully that'll be the last one. But I don't like this camera. It'll probably go on my shelf as a display item. Now I'm going to take a photograph of this little statue, but I'm going to do it this way while the sun's shrouded with clouds, so I'll let it move on a bit and focus on this, and probably the background might go slightly out of focus, we'll just see. So I'll set the camera up. Take a light reading first. 125 between f5.6 and f4. .125 between 5.6 and 4. Right, got that. So the light's getting really nice now. Just see if I can wind it on again and see if it's run out of film yet. No, I've got another one. Oh dear. Right, carry on, see what else we can find. This is the only camera I've ever used that I'm hoping it'll just run out of film, so I can just wind it back and get it developed. Right, I'm just going to take a picture of this bark and see how good the lens is at resolving detail. But to be honest with you, I'm running out of inspiration with this really thing. It's a very awkward camera to use. I think it would be a lot better if it was used on a tripod. You'd have a lot more control then. But you know, I wouldn't come out with a camera like that for landscape photography. So, as I say, it's probably going to go on the shelf as a showpiece. But I'll see. I might change my mind when I see the pictures. So I'll take a picture of this now and then. Hopefully that's going to be the last shot. So it's 30th of a second at f8. Right, that's that. Let's hope there's none left. Oh, there's still another one left. Oh dear. The inspiration's going in this camera. I'm going to shoot one more picture and that's it. I've made my mind up. Otherwise I'm going to throw it. Right, I've just taken a photograph of the bridge from here about that angle. Exposure is 125 between f8 and f11. I didn't put the GoPro in here. When people walk across it bounces like mad. So, and I've just wound on and that was the last shot. So get back, develop the negatives and see what's happened. Here days wins. Right, I'll show you briefly around the camera, and as you can see it's an unusual 35mm camera because it's got two lenses. The top one is a viewing lens and the bottom one is the actual taking lens. The taking lens is an Agfa f2.8 45mm, and both lenses are coated, multi-coated. The good thing is that the viewing lens, I think, is the same aperture, a maximum aperture of f2.8 as the taking lens, so you get a very bright view in the waist level finder. The controls for the camera are all on the lens. To control the actual shutter speed, you've got two little catches at each side, and you rotate them, if I can show you like that, to select the shutter speeds. And the shutter speeds run from B 1 second to 500th of a second. It won't go any faster than that because it's what they call a leaf shutter. The aperture is set with another ring which is there, and that runs from 2.8 to f22, and the focusing ring is right at the front of the lens there. The only thing, the shutter speed's easy to set, but when I was using it I got a little bit mixed up because the aperture ring is so close to it, and you can inadvertently move, when moving the aperture, move the shutter speed, so you have to be careful of that. The other thing with the aperture, it's stepless, so it doesn't click to the intermediate f-stops, so you can really set it anywhere you want. The waist level finder, you press that lever there, and it pops up, and then you've got this very bright waist level finder. For magnifying and focusing, you just flip that switch and the magnifier comes up. The only thing I found with this, to use this camera in portrait format that way, it's virtually impossible to focus using this magnifier. So I found the best way was to focus in landscape format, and then use these two windows, the one at the back of the camera, that one, and you look through this front one here, and you can get your composition by doing that. The only thing you've got to be aware of is because the taker lens is down at the bottom and the viewing aperture here is further up, you could run into parallax error. On the pictures I took, I didn't find it a problem, but you would if you were closer in with this camera. So the viewfinder is very nice, a bit awkward to use. Let's look at the top of the camera a bit more. We've got the shutter release button there, and it's a very smooth action. I'll show you can wind the camera on at the bottom. It's an unusual place to have it because normally at the top, but it works very well, and I didn't find that awkward at all. Very well weighted, that shutter, and it's threaded for a cable release. So put a cable release in, wind the camera on, and it works perfectly, so that's good. That's just a film reminder window telling you what you've got in. That's set to black and white now, and this is it's not a what they call a self-resetting frame counter. You have to manually do that with this little switch on the back. Keep pressing it. So you load your film, and when you're ready for the first shot, just send that to number 1. I won't go all the way down, but to number 1, and it's set. And as you wind on to the next frame, it goes to number 2, etc. But it doesn't reset when you open the camera back. Just going back to the lens, if you like to use filters, this camera hasn't got any filter threads, but I did find out when I was looking that I have a filter. It's an orange filter, and its thread size is 52mm. Now there's nowhere to screw this onto the camera, so it won't fit that way, but I found pure luck that if I turned it the opposite way around, it would fit onto the camera that way, and there's very little movement, and if you're walking about, it'd fall off, but just for taking pictures, it's great. It works. So but you need 52mm filters for that. Look at the bottom of camera. We've got, as I say, we've got the wind on there, a tripod socket. This side's not in the centre, and then this is the rewind crank on the camera. So when you've finished the film, you have to press that button down, it's marked with an R, and then pull this out, and then just simply rewind the film back. To open the camera, a little latch there, open it up, and it's quite conventional to load this camera. You just pull that knob out like that, put your cassette into there, pull the film over, and then pull it across with the wind lever. Pull it across a couple of times, push that in, shut the top, and set the wind it maybe one more time, and then set the counter to number 1, and you're ready to start shooting. It's got a couple of eyelets for a strap there, which is good. A lot of the old cameras didn't have them. So all in all, it's a very, very well made camera. I found it quite awkward to use, but I'll probably get better with using it. But as I say, it's a very, very well made camera. Oh, it's got a PC socket there, and it's got a little leg that sticks out the bottom. That's supposed to help it stand up, but it doesn't do a very good job. But you can just stand it up. So that's the Agfa Flexilette 35mm twin lens camera. Right, so this is the last part of the video. You've seen the pictures I took with the Agfa camera. I've shown you briefly around the camera itself and all its working parts, and now I'll just give a brief overview and you know, assess, is it worth buying this camera, spending like I did, I think it was £65. Well, I would say yes, it is worth buying these sort of cameras, because if you love these sort of cameras and you use them, it keeps them working. And you know, if you're like me, and I think a lot of people will be the same, you tend to look after these cameras. So in that respect, they are worth buying because it keeps them going. But as a camera for using, I found it, as you saw in the video, very, very frustrating to use. And the frustrating part was in the actual focusing and composition with this camera. It was very, very awkward. Now, if you're photographing in the landscape format, this is a 35mm camera, remember, you push the viewfinder up, look through the magnifier and focus on your subject. The screen's very bright and it's easy to focus, and then you can either shoot at that angle, which is it's a little bit awkward, or you can bring it down to waist level. Now if you bring it down to waist level, you need to push down the magnifier, and I found that doing it that way, if I was in bright light, the reflections from the screen, I couldn't see the picture that was taken until I sort of manipulated the camera in a way that I shaded the screen. So I found that very frustrating. That happened a few times. And the other thing is, using this camera in portrait mode is virtually impossible. So you know, you get your camera and set it up like that. You've got your viewfinder there and your magnifier, and then you're trying to hold the camera and focus that way, and it just feels odd because you're looking away from the picture. So I found it nearly impossible to focus like that. In fact, I nearly threw this camera in the river. I'm glad I didn't, but I nearly did. The best way to use it is to just simply focus in the landscape format, and then use the use this at the back of the camera, this eyepiece. Look through that, and then you get a view which gives you the 35mm view through that window, so you can pause through that. So as I say, the best way, focus in landscape mode, and then turn the camera and compose using these two two windows. That's the only way I found I could do it. I think this camera actually it would be a lot easier to use if it was on a tripod. But in some respects, that sort of does away with the actual thought behind these type of cameras. They're cameras you should be able to take about and just take pictures just when you want them, and not be having to carry a tripod about. But personally, I think this camera would be a lot easier on a tripod. And after I've seen the actual pictures that I've taken with it, I'm going to try and use it again on a tripod, and because I do think it can produce some really lovely pictures. So all in all, it's got a good lens. You saw in the pictures, it's a cracking lens. The viewfinder is very clear. The shutter, where you wind it on at the bottom here, is a very nice action. Might just show there's no film in it now. It's a very nice action on that, and the shutter's beautiful. The camera's built very, very well. It really is a beautiful camera, very well made. And if we look in the back of this camera, you load it like a normal camera, but the light seals on this camera are not foam. It's like a corded material, and I think that's why this camera hasn't got any light leaks, because the corded light sealing tends to last for many, many years. So all in all, it's a really, really nice camera. It's very awkward to use. You might get better at it after you've used it more, but if I go out with this camera again, I'll probably try and use it on a tripod. So that's it, the Agfa Flexilette, or Flexilette, twin lens 35mm camera. You don't see many of these cameras for sale, and there's no wonder, but I'm glad I bought it. It's going to be a nice addition to my collection, and I will use it again. As I say, when I was out, I nearly threw it away, but coming back and seeing the picture, I will use the camera again, and just see if I can get you know, even better pictures out of it, because the lens is really, really good. So that's it, the end of another video. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Better still, subscribe to my channel, and once again, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next video.